welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and today we have my TBR for the NEWT Magical Readathon. G over at Book Roast is wildly creative and has put together this really elaborate readathon for us. If you are new to the Magical Readathons, back in April, she unveiled her OWL's readathon, which was kind of themed around the OWL exams from Harry Potter, the ordinary wizarding levels that students take in their 5th year. For each subject, you had to read a book that fit a challenge, and for each book that you read, you passed that OWL. And it was super fun. I kind of jumped in halfway through, but managed to scrape by with 7 OWLs, which I'm very proud of. For the NEWTs, you can complete challenges for any subject that you received an OWL for. So I have 7 to choose from. I'm only gonna go with 5 just because there are 3 prompts for each. It's much more elaborate than most readathons, I will say. She put in a lot of work to this, so I will leave her video linked down below if you are unfamiliar with this readathon and would like some more explanation for how to complete challenges and such. But anyway, enough rambling, let's dive into my TBR. So the 7 subjects that I received OWLs for were Ancient Runes, Arithmancy, Astronomy, Care of Magical Creatures, Divination, Muggle Studies, and Potions. Like I said, I'm not trying to get any WTs in all of those subjects because that would be a lot of books, but I have chosen 5 that I will at least attempt to receive a grade for. The first one is Ancient Runes, and to get an acceptable on this exam, you need to read a book that is set in the past. So for that, I have chosen Persuasion by Jane Austen. Most people are shocked when I tell them that I have never read any Jane Austen books before, and I totally understand. It is surprising, but classics are not my favorite subject. I have a hard time connecting with them a lot of the time, but I really want to, read at least 1 or 2 Jane Austen books before the year ends. I bought a whole set of them. Aren't they so pretty? So I feel really energized to do so. And if I don't finish this, then I can't move on to receive higher grades in Ancient Runes. So I have to read this one before I can move on to my other 2 books. But I have high hopes. A lot of people have told me that they think this is the one that I will enjoy the most. So hopefully that helps and is true, and I really love it. To receive a grade of exceeds expectations for the Ancient Runes NEWT, you need to read the most ancient book on your shelf. And G kind of said you can interpret this in a couple different ways. One is the book that's been on your TBR the longest. And for me, I wanted again to pick a classic because I'm trying to read more classics this year and I've only read 1. And so I chose Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. And the reasoning behind this, I feel like everyone reads this in high school. This seems like a pretty classic high school, English class pick, but I didn't read it then, and I've been wanting to read it since, probably since I read 1984, which is kind of my first dystopian that I read, and I think this is the perfect time to do so. This book takes place in a futuristic America where certain books are banned and burned, and that's really all I know, but I think it's a relatively quick read as well, so I'm hoping that I do love this story as much as I think I'm going to, because a lot of people really love this, and it's one of their favorite classics, so it's about time I finally read it. And then to receive an outstanding on your Ancient Runes NEWT, you need to read a book translated from another language. And for this one, I am going with A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. This was originally written in Swedish. Fredrik Backman is Swedish, he lives in Stockholm. So this story is about a cranky old man who gets some new neighbors. It's a boisterous and lively young family, and he is not one for lots of noise or excitement. He is kind of curmudgeonly and keeps to himself, but it seems like he kind of, has or develops a relationship with this new family, is maybe softened up a little bit or something. I don't know. I've heard really great things about this author in general, and I know that this book was adapted to a movie that people really enjoyed. I think it was in Swedish. But anyway, I'm really excited to get to this one. There are so many books by Fredrik Backman that I really want to read, including Beartown and Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer, which is a novella. So I really want to read this one for this challenge. I'm hoping I'm able to make it all the way through to the outstanding challenge for this one. Next up is Arithmancy, and to receive an acceptable on this exam, you need to read a book that is at least 300 pages. So for this one, I am going with History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. This is one that I am reading for Booktubeathon as well, so if you saw that video, then you know a little bit about why I'm choosing this one. But I'm really excited. I read my first Adam Silvera book back in June, and it destroyed me, and I loved it. It was amazing. So I'm really excited to pick this one up. A lot of people say this one is their favorite. It's very emotional. I also happen to have a signed copy, so that's cool too. And for the grid of Exceeds Expectations, you need to read a book that ends on an even numbered page, and so for that I chose Girl Out of Water by Laura Silverman. I actually won this on a Twitter giveaway, so I am really excited to finally get to it. I won it a couple months back, but it just seems like the perfect summer read. It ends on page 350, in case you wanted to know. This is about a young girl who grows up in California and who loves to surf and be on the beach and all of that. But one summer, the summer before her senior year of high school, I think, her aunt is in a serious car accident, and so Annis, I think is how you say her name, goes to Nebraska to care for her 3 young cousins. So Nebraska is obviously very different than California, and as someone who lives in a Midwestern landlocked state, I'm excited to see what that is all about and how that's depicted. But she meets a boy while she is there who loves skateboarding, and so he dares her to swap her surfboard for a skateboard, and I'm sure it's a love story. I mean, Laura Silverman has a new book coming out relatively soon as well, so I'm hoping I love this one and then can pick up the new one shortly after. And then to receive an outstanding on the Arithmancy NEWT, the challenge is to read a book that is not the first in a series. And right now I am currently rereading the Harry Potter books via audiobook, and I just started Goblet of Fire, so regardless of where I end up by the time I can sit for this exam, it won't be the first in a series, so I will just count that as reading for that one. I'm, a side note, loving listening to them on audiobook. I really wanted to reread the Harry Potter books this year, and this was the perfect way to do it. It makes my commute so much more enjoyable, so it's been super awesome. Next is astronomy, and I'm only aiming to get an acceptable grade. To receive an acceptable, you need to read a book with stars on the cover, and so for that I chose An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon. I mentioned this book in my June TBR, so I'll link that up here, but I never got around to it. I started it, but then it just wasn't quite what I was in the mood for. But it was very interesting when I read of it. This is a sci-fi story that takes place on a space vessel that really mirrors organization like the antebellum South, where the leaders of the spacecraft have pretty negative views toward the darker skinned sharecroppers that live on like the bottom floors. Aster is intersex and I believe identifies as queer in some way, and there's a lot of discussion about race, obviously, and gender identity and sexuality as well. So this just seems like a sci-fi story that packs a little bit more than you are used to in sci-fi and fantasy and that sort of thing. I don't feel like I did a very good job describing it, so if you want to watch my other TBR video, I think I did a better job the first time. And so the other challenges for astronomy are to read a book that has sky in the title, and then to read a book set on a different planet or world. And the only one I could think of for sky was Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shawnee McGuire, but I am on a book buying ban right now, and I know I want to own that book. I don't know, I guess I could get it out from the library or find an e-copy or something. I do have some on my shelf that could fit the outstanding challenge, but either way, I'm not like desperately trying to find books, but if you do have a suggestion, please let me know. And then for Care of Magical Creatures, I'm actually aiming to complete this entire set of challenges during Booktubeathon. So all of these videos are mentioned in my TBR video for that I posted on Wednesday, so link that up here or down below or something. To score an acceptable on this one, you need to read a book with an animal on the cover, so for that I am reading Prince Caspian by C.S. Lewis, book number 2 in the Chronicles of Narnia. For Exceeds Expectations, you need to read a book under 160 pages, and for that I chose Oracle by Kate Marvin, which is a collection of poems. And then to receive an outstanding, you need to read a book that involves dragons in some way, and so for that I chose The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making by Catherine M. Valente. Obviously, there's a dragon on the cover, and there's something about a book-loving dragon in the synopsis, so I think this fits the bill. And then I will not be attempting to read any books for divination or Muggle studies. And finally, for potions, to receive in the grade of acceptable, you need to read a book with a color in the title, and so for that, I am going with The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I know, I know, I should have read this by now. I actually read like half of it way back in the day, like when I was still in college, and was really enjoying it, so I don't know why I stopped reading it, but this is a very beloved classic piece of literature about an artist who becomes sort of obsessed with Dorian Gray, who is beautiful and wants to paint his portrait. Dorian Gray is very vain, and something to do with painting. I don't remember all that much, but I think it's a bit of magical realism, and it's just one that I need to read now. It's getting silly. I have no excuses. And then to receive the grade of exceeds expectations, you need to read a book with a male lead character, and for this I'm reading Darius the Great is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. I actually received an e-copy of this from Penguin First to Read, and I am so excited to read it. This is the story of Darius, who grew up in America. He is a huge nerd, loves The Hobbit, loves Star Trek. The description says he speaks better Klingon than Farsi, and he is taking his first trip to Iran with his family to meet his grandfather, grandmother, and the rest of his mom's family. But he's very intimidated because he doesn't know much about Persian culture, doesn't speak the language very well, and he meets the boy next door, Sarab, I believe is his name, who makes sure that people include Darius and make sure they speak English so he can be involved in the conversations. And I think it's a love story between the two of them. There is like an LGBTQ+ tag on Goodreads, so I have a feeling, but it sounds like a really good story. It is a debut novel as well, so I'm really excited that I have the chance to read this a little bit early. This book will be published on August 28th, so I will be sure to let you know my thoughts before then. And finally, and probably the most intimidating and ridiculous on this TBR, you need to read a book over 350 pages to receive an outstanding in potions. And for this, I chose Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. Look, this is definitely over 350 pages. This is the first book in a new trilogy within the Red Rising saga, I believe. It doesn't technically fall in the same series, but it happens like 10 years after the events in the first trilogy. Obviously not going to go into what this is about because that would totally spoil the 3 books that are already out, and you should read them. But this is insane, especially considering the other 3 books in the series are like not this long. This is a lot. Alright, well that is everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I am so excited for the NEWT's Magical Readathon. I had a lot of fun with the OWLs, and I only participated for like half of the month when that was going on, so I'm excited to be all in this time. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on new videos every single week. But until the next one, happy reading. Bye.